Noon. My name is Isaiah Primick, and I'm here to tell you a little bit about the process of drafting an essay. So for this essay, Bearing Witness, Tattoos of Epiphany, for my philosophy class, our assignment was to take one of the works we had been reading and to examine a work of art or a style of art through the lens of that philosopher. So the longest part of any drafting process, I've often found, is coming up with your initial idea. The more freeing your prompt is, often the more difficult this is, but the more leeway you have to do what you want. So for me, before I even get into writing my essay, I'll take a central idea, and for me in this case it was tattoos and phenomenology, which was just an idea that popped into my head, and I thought, well, I wonder if this could make a good essay. From there, I started to, well, you can see my central question at first was how the two are linked. From there, I started to look into the text. So Russin was the author that we were looking at. So I started looking in his text for ideas that could support my idea of phenomenological tattoos. I would pull out sections of the text that I think could be useful, and I would simply copy and paste them onto a Word doc. From here, once I have enough evidence to show that this is clearly a supported idea, that tattoos are a phenomenological form of art, I begin to organize and sort of section off different things. I come up with the different points that I want to make, so that's how I have this organized. So these are the points that I'm trying to make in the essay. Tattoos are a way of experiencing art. They're a way of identity transformation. They're a self-reflexive mark. And they're a site for communication with the other. Among other things, these are the primary points of my paper. Within that, I then begin to organize my quotes as different pieces of evidence. Or where I don't have any quotes, I sort of just fill in information as I can sort of come up with it. From here, I move to the actual writing part of my essay. So one useful tip is if your introduction and thesis are giving you an issue, don't start with it. With this essay in particular, I started right in my body paragraphs. I completely skipped my introduction and evidence just because that's often the thing that takes me the most time to write. So I begun writing my evidence, which is the body of the paper, really, by connecting my ideas from the outline with really transitionary phrases. So really, the process of creating an outline is drafting your paper, and then all you have to do when you actually go to write your paper is put sentences in between your evidence. Is what it more or less amounts to. Be sure that if you're engaging with various texts outside of just a single author, especially if you're engaging with a peer-reviewed paper or something like that, be sure that you, instead of just quoting directly from them, like in this case, I use a dissertation by a woman named Leanna Hugh, and instead of quoting her on all that I want to carry over, I do quote her some. I instead paraphrase her main point and then transform it into the language that Russin uses and the language that we've been using in class. This is a useful skill to better convey textual evidence and demonstrate a deep engagement with another text. Then, once you've really got your essay fleshed out, all of your evidence accounted for, or at least most of it, then you can go back and write your introduction and thesis. Good places to start with introductions are personal narratives, interesting questions, statistics, facts, really just something to try and grab the reader's attention. The better it relates to your topic, the better the reader will get a sense that your essay is making an argumentative point that carries all the way through. Usually the last thing you do is write the conclusion, but this is actually I often do this before I write my introduction, as your conclusion should restate your thesis. and more or less give a summary of the points that you make in your paper. So it's often most useful to write all your evidence and then write a conclusion with a summed up thesis that you can then take and carry over to your introduction, which you can see right here. And those are my tips for drafting an essay. I hope they've helped.